Another interested party is at the table for Derby County as David Clowes continues to seek investment for Derby County Football Club. Now, as we know, it was reported around September last year that David Clowes was looking to potentially sell up to an 80% stake in the club or find an investor for himself going forward. Now, it's been a huge year for Derby County, a huge summer transfer window of which up to £15 million was spent. But now we're getting towards that investment conversation yet again, and a couple of interested parties have come to the front. Now, one of them being John Textor, one of them is certainly an unknown source. But we're going to discuss it all in this video. Now, if you have not done so already, make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and turn on that notification bell. Let me know your thoughts on this down in the comments, but let's get into it. Now, party number one is obviously John Textor, and these parties have come to the front since Sheffield Wednesday went into administration. Now, in my personal opinion, I think this sort of situation that we find ourselves in is where maybe these interested parties are maybe looking at Derby County to see what they could do or how they could take Sheffield Wednesday forward were they to complete that deal. But ultimately, we won't know unless a deal actually happens. Now, obviously, one of the parties is John Textor. We've done a couple of videos on him recently. It's not looking too positive in his regard, but let's look a little deeper. Now, obviously, it's a huge decision for David Clowes as he looks to potentially sell Derby County or potentially bring in an investor. Now, he's got to do what's right for him and he's got to do what's right for the football club. Obviously, as it stands right now, he's obviously undercutting a lot of losses. It's obviously going to impact his other businesses and things like that as he puts more and more money into Derby County, which is obviously the right thing to do as manager, owner, whatever you want to consider, and chairman of Derby County, is doing all the right things for me. Now, obviously, it was revealed a couple of weeks ago that John Textor was essentially looking at Derby County and Sheffield Wednesday. Derby County was second choice. But for me, I don't necessarily think John Textor is the right guy to take Derby County forward. Now, obviously, earlier in 2025, there was other parties at the table, and as it stands right now, no deal sort of has been made. Now, in terms of Sheffield Wednesday, they could potentially be available for around £50 million, which would probably be cheaper than the situation Derby County are in. But ultimately, Sheffield Wednesday are essentially going down this season, pretty much, unless they get something done in the next couple of days and have something in place for January where they can bring in some players and turn things around on the pitch. It looks as if they're going to be heading to League One next year. Now, for me, as a Derby County fan, as much as this news is great, that there's more interested parties, I sort of get the feeling that we're being a little bit used, if I'm completely honest. I think when it comes to Derby County, I think obviously we're a great idea of what you can do on return from administration, and we did a brilliant job in League One, 2 seasons down there before getting promoted. We're in our second season now in the Championship, and we're playing within our means, let's say, and we've got about a £25 million buffer between us and the profit and sustainability conversation, which is obviously one which we hope we never have to have again. But the problem that, for me, is coming right now is that I think potential interested parties are looking at us as a way to go, right, this is what Derby County have done, this is what we could do with Sheffield Wednesday. And that's sort of the frustration that comes with me, because as much as I think John Textor might be interested in investing in Derby County, I ultimately don't necessarily believe he is. I think he's looking for probably a cheaper deal, probably a bit of a partnership in terms of that with maybe someone else that's trying to go in at Sheffield Wednesday. And I don't necessarily think that anything will come to fruition from that. And if I'm completely honest, I don't think David Clowes would want him near it anyway. Now, in terms of the other party, we don't really have any information. Now, obviously, if we go back to administration, there was plenty of conversation surrounding Mike Ashley. Now, is Mike Ashley interested in Derby County? Probably not. Is he interested in Sheffield Wednesday? It certainly does appear so. Now, for me, you know that Mike Ashley is going to look for the cheapest possible deal, a way that he can get his branding all around the stadium and things like that. And don't get me wrong, I'm not going to turn around and say that he's a bad owner, but ultimately he's never going to put you beyond your means. You're going to spend what you earn, and that's the way that it's going to work. And that is sort of the position where we find with Mike Ashley, is that I don't think he'd be a good owner for Derby County. Do I think he'd be a good owner for Sheffield Wednesday? He'd certainly get them back on their feet. Now, realistically, there's a lot of discussions that need to be had in regards to where Derby County go with this takeover discussion, because I know we've spoke about it a lot recently with obviously the John Textor news coming forward and things like that, and I think it's incredible that that has come forward and put Derby County in a position to sort of go, right, face to a name and a name in general that is interested in the club, because we've had a lot of interested parties, people at the table over the course of the last 12 to 18 months, and ultimately nothing has come from it. And do I think that David Clowes is probably being very diligent? 100%, don't get me wrong. And do I blame him for that? Of course I don't. Like, he's doing the right thing, he's trying to protect the football club. But do I also think that maybe that means that some of these interested parties that are at the table stand absolutely no chance, in my personal opinion? Absolutely. And do I think that that's wrong? No. But do I think that everybody should be given a fair crack at the whip? Absolutely. Now, we are going to sort of have to wait and see what happens for Derby County over the course of the next few days and few months and things like that, because obviously as it stands right now, we have no information in regards to completing any deals in regards to takeovers or anything like that. We have no information in regards to trying to get shit done, essentially, and that's obviously a disappointing factor that we find with Derby County at the moment. Now, obviously, when it comes to on-pitch performances, it's been a mega turnaround across the course of the last 5 games. We are going to discuss it in a lot more detail. I might even pop up on a live stream later on today so that we can discuss Derby County's turnaround and look at the last 15 or so fixtures. I think we're on game 15 now, and all things like that. Have a look at the league table, and realistically, I think Derby County are in a perfect position for investment. We're sat just outside the playoffs. We have a brilliant manager. We have a brilliant squad of players, and ultimately, we're getting results. The big problem that Derby County are going to face when it comes to January and beyond is the fact that, do we have that backing then to invest further and better this squad in a bigger way? That is the question for me. Now, obviously, you will have your opinion. I have mine. Do I think that David Clowes can take us to playoff championship contenders? Absolutely. Do I think that he can manage to sustain Derby County in the Premier League? Maybe not so much. But obviously, we're going to have to wait and see what happens with that. And with an extra interested party joining the group and potentially sorting out a deal with David Clowes, it's going to be very, very interesting to see how it all shakes out. Now, obviously, as of right now, we have no confirmation on a bid. We have no confirmation on interested parties or anything like that. All we know is that John Textor is looking at Derby as a second club if Sheffield Wednesday doesn't work, and there's another party in the mix. Now, obviously, there's so many things that could happen and so many changes that can be made for Derby County over the course of the next 12 months. But you can let me know your thoughts down in the comments if you have not done so already. Make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and turn on that notification bell, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye-bye, guys.